Hey there, welcome to day 171, and we are finishing Acts chapter 5 today. So, I don't know about you, but I love this passage and how much it just inspired me to share the love of Jesus with others. And so, what we see is that the apostles have made the religious leaders upset again, and so they decide to arrest them again. And what we see, of course, is that the angel of the Lord appears through the night and unlocks the prison doors and not only frees them, but tells them to go and to the temple and start preaching. And so that's where they find them in the morning when they go and check the doors. The prison doors are closed, the guard's there, but the apostles are gone. And they find them preaching in the temple, exactly what they had been arrested for earlier. And so I just love the idea that prison walls could not hold them back. They could not be deterred from their purpose. And so they don't, this religious leaders don't drag them back, and they know politically it would look better for them to just walk them back and say, well, I thought we talked about this and told you not to do this anymore. And we see Peter here and the apostles say, we must obey God rather than men. So yeah, we heard you, but you're not the people, you're not the authority we're following in this case. The authority we follow is God. And so the religious leaders, of course, are super angry at this point. They want to kill them, much like they did with Jesus. But one of the Pharisees steps up and says, all right, guys, listen. Here's the deal. Remember this guy, Theudas, and people followed him. And when he was gone, they dispersed. And then there was another man, another person that had followers, named Judas, not Judas Iscariot, different Judas. And when he was gone, his followers dispersed, they scattered, and his following was no more. So if these guys are like the others, then if we just leave them alone, eventually it will all fall away. So basically, if Jesus wasn't who he said he was, the disciples of him, the followers, will eventually disperse and die off. But if it's of God, you will not be able to overthrow them. And I love that verse in verse 39. If it's of God, you will not be able to overthrow them. And I think that's such an important part for us to remember today, that even 2,000 years later, we are still preaching the gospel. We're still reading the Bible and following the scriptures, because if it's of God, you will not be able to overthrow them. So they decide that they're just going to beat the apostles and give them another warning, basically like a parent who's giving a spanking and saying, hey, told you to stop, you need to stop. But of course, the apostles, as they leave, I love what it says in verse 41. It says, then they left the presence of the council, rejoicing that they were counted worthy to suffer dishonor for the name. And just such a great perspective of the persecution they were facing. It's not that they were defeated. They weren't thinking, well, maybe we should be quiet for a little bit so that this will all die down. They said, no, we are rejoicing that we are being persecuted for the name of Jesus. And then it finishes in verse 42, which just should encourage all of us, even more so today. It says, and every day in the temple and from house to house, they did not cease teaching and preaching Jesus as the Christ. And I don't know about you, but that verse definitely gave me chills when I read it, that every day they did not cease what they were doing. I just love that idea that their purpose of spreading the gospel could not be stopped. They were undaunted by what laid before them, and they knew what their purpose was, and we're going to obey God in doing it. So I hope that you were encouraged by the passage today, and that you will be undaunted by your purpose for God as well.